Hey everybody, it's Casual Boops coming at you with another video, and today we're going to cover the brand new Kampfpanzer 07RH, longest name in the game, the brand new Tier 8 German premium medium tank again, and as you can see here, it's one of the many Tier 8 German premium medium tanks. Of course, there's the Schwarzpanzer and the Mutz FL, and then the Panzer 58. These are all the same tank. Great work, Wargaming. And then there's the Panther 88 trash can and the Panzer trash can. And then we got this thing, which is also not very good. But anyways, the Kampfpanzer. It's if you're watching this when it's released, it's today, I guess when I'm recording this, is the first day of the marathon. The 10 days? 10-day marathon that you can get this tank for, air quote, for free. And I'm not going to go into the specifics of the marathon, but again, just like everything else, the gist of this is it's going to take you a long time. Like the first few stages aren't so bad, and then they start to get progressively harder, substantially harder, to the point where what they want you to do is they want you to get to the point where you maybe have to pay, you work your butt off and you still have to give them some money, and then they get some money. So that's what their goal is. So just be aware that be aware of how much time you're willing to devote to the thing, and how much money you're willing to spend on this just in advance, because otherwise there's all kinds of sunk cost fallacy, right? If you get 90% off, that looks really good, but that's still probably like $7. Well, if you can't afford $7, then you probably shouldn't still buy the tank. So anyways, that being said, on the actual tank itself, what is it? It's essentially, it's everything the CDC should be. But anyways, so specifically, this is all Tanks GG, so you can see this all yourself. So I'll try to keep it really light on this because you can check it out. Again, you can see all this. It's the same crew layout as the Leopard and the Leopard, the Leopard 1 and the Leopard PTA, and I think the Indian Panzer as well has a 4-man crew. I could be wrong on that one, but the same 4-man, which is nice. The view range is okay. The camo is okay. It's when you get a full camo crew, it's about the same as most medium tanks, maybe a little bit less than some medium tanks. I didn't feel like I could play bush sniper in this like I could in like a Leopard 1, for instance. So that's that's something. The armor is absolute paper. We'll get into that later. Good things. The DPM is really great. The top speed is really great. The reverse speed is pretty good too. And it's okay. If speed-wise, it's okay. It's not the fastest. The pep. It feels like fairly peppy, but definitely not a light tank, right? Traverse soft stats are okay. Dispersion 0.34 is okay, right? But the damage being 200 means this, I feel like it should be a little more accurate than it is for just 200 damage, and then 205 pen is fine. But again, I feel like if I'm working with 0.34 accuracy, and the soft stats are okay. These are fine. They're not great, though. If I'm working with these kind of accuracy stats and this kind of damage, I should have God tier penetration. Or maybe I have this penetration and this accuracy, and I don't know. The whole equation doesn't really feel that good in my experience. Like in some, and I'll get into the look and the feel of or how the tank plays, I guess, later on. But 90 millimeters is fine. The premium pen, it is a heat round. Before good things and bad things. So the shell velocity in the standard rounds is 962, which is not slow, but it's certainly not fast. Again, I've definitely felt like I would 1200 shell velocity would have made a big difference. And then the premium shell velocity is even slower. It's a heat round, 255. That's okay. You're not meant to be face checking heavy tanks in this thing, I guess. And then the one thing that's kind of nice, the the HE round damage goes from 200 to 320, and it's got 90 millimeters of pen, which is actually pretty pretty useful. Like if you get a chance where you can beat up a Borsig or another CDC or like an SU-100Y or SU-100. What is it? SU-130PM, that's what it is. Anything that you can pen with 90 millimeters of HE pen, this feels really good. Now, this isn't going to be every situation. Heavy tanks don't care about this, but when it works, it works. I'll just say it like that. So that's kind of, it's soft stats are, terrain resistances are what they are. 10 degrees of gun depression, or sorry, 9 degrees of gun depression is nice. I will say the 15 degrees of gun elevation kind of, it's not bad, but it did feel a little, I noticed it when I was playing around with it. I noticed that this was something limiting, like when you're on El Haluf and you're down, down the hill and you're trying to shoot at something that's up on a ridge. That gun elevation really limited what I could shoot at sometimes. So not a big deal, not as bad as like a, what is it? I'm thinking like the Manticore probably has the worst one I can think of, where it's what is it, like 7 or 8 or something like that. I'm curious now, to be honest. Yeah, gun elevation of 8, unusable garbage. I like that tank, but the gun elevation is really limiting. And this is not that bad, but it's still something that you will notice once in a while. So yeah, I mean, it's a Pew-Pew tank, right? So let's to the armor. It's really bad. It's really bad. I did manage to get some miracle bounces off of certain things in, while I was playing the thing. Like, the armor is not thin enough that you're probably going to be penned by HE. Well, I mean, this is 80 millimeters effective, right? So that means if you're a Kampfpanzer and you come up against somebody else in a Kampfpanzer, they could shoot HE right through your turret. So that's something. But the hull is okay, 115 with good angling and stuff. So like, I have gotten some troll bounces using the gun depression, and it's kind of interesting turret design, right? If you can see that the whole thing rotates on like a trunnion, right? That's the can of tuna is opening. Open the tuna. Wait. Anyways, but you can, like, the gun depression, like the hull can be trollish, but I would just, generally speaking, I would not ever expect to bounce anything in this tank ever. It can happen. It has happened to me occasionally, but I always consider that like a bonus. Like, oh wow, I got really lucky there. Like, it's certainly not good armor, and that really limits what you can do with the thing, in my opinion, because you can't ever put yourself in a position where you have to trade because you have 200 alpha, but you also can't be in a position where you can brawl because you have no armor and you will lose the thing. So this tank really, honestly, to me, it kind of felt like a light tank with no camo, right? Or like an LT 432 with worse camo, and like, just a LT 432 with that gets less auto bounce angles and less trollish armor, and is bigger, right? Because it's not that small of a tank. The LT 432 in its entirety is probably the size of just the hull of this tank. So it feels kind of like an LT 432 that can't really do the scout tank thing right very well, and is bigger and doesn't get the trollish armor. So I think the LT 432 is probably a little bit on the strong side, and so this tank is not bad. I think it's fairly well balanced, but when we compare it to other things, it's like there's just a handful of little things that they would change about this. I think it would be really, really good. And it can still be good in the right situations, but it's situational, right? Because there's only certain things, some situations you're gonna have a hard time putting the tank to good use. So equipment, onto the equipment. I played around with the equipment quite a bit, and what I found was that when I didn't have a turbo on it, it didn't feel special. It didn't feel fast enough. And a lot of tanks, when you put a turbo on it, you don't really see the benefits. Like, it's there technically, but you don't really feel it. With this tank, I feel like you kind of need the speed to make the tank work, and you do notice the top speed difference too. And the reverse speed getting to 28 is pretty remarkable. So I ran mine with a turbo, and then a rammer, and then I believe V stabs. I think I put on V stabs. I think this is what I did, to make sure that you land every single shot that you need to. But this is debatable. You could make the argument that maybe you take the turbo off and you put vents on there to maximize the DPM. But honestly, the other thing is that, in my opinion, some of the things about this tank that people are going to tout as being very good, and look at how good this tank is because of, well, for instance, the DPM. If you're running the food and you have a good crew and stuff, look, you can get the DPM to almost 3,000 with AP rounds, which sounds really great, and it is pretty good. However, the problem is, first of all, DPM only counts when you hit the shots. And in my experience, you bounce one that you shouldn't bounce, boom, your DPM has gone down. If you whiff one that you shouldn't have whiffed, your DPM is not very good anymore. Like, DPM only counts when you can make it count by hitting the shots and penning. And also, in the game of World of Tanks, there aren't that many situations that you can make somebody just sit there and take your DPM, right? If somebody crosses an open field, then yeah, you can punish them pretty hard. But most of the time in this game, in World of Tanks, there is enough situations, enough cover, where if someone's not doing something really dumb, usually you get 1 or maybe 2 shots in, and then they're back where they should be and they're safe. So I didn't feel like the DPM was useful a lot of the time. So that's something to be aware of. It's easy to look at these things like this DPM number and say, oh my god, look at how awesome this is, and like that is cool, but it's not always going to be useful because you can't make use of this all the time. So just bear that in mind, when you're looking at this review and deciding whether this is worth your time, whether this is something you want to spend the next, a substantial amount of the next 10 days of your life on. And yeah, so anyways, I think that I've covered everything. 80 ammo feels fine. You don't really feel like, I never had an issue with ammo count. I'll just say that. Like, I thought there might be an issue, but there really isn't. Like, if you're doing 16,000 damage, you aren't concerned with having more ammo. So, yeah, I think without further ado, we'll get into the gameplay. Alright, so we're going to watch me play in the Kampfpanzer 07RH, mouthful of a tank name. I'm just going to call it the RH, or the, I don't know, whatever, I'll call it the RH, I guess. We're playing on Pilsen, we're playing in an all-tier 8 match. There's 1 artillery, 1 scout per team. And I'm loading an HE round so I can shoot down these doors, because if you load an HE round, you can get it done in 1 shot. And I see this, the IS-2 is kind of out looking to get punished. And so I missed the first shot, and I just, that's a perfect example. Like, I feel like I should have, maybe the first one I didn't aim that well, but I feel like the second one should have definitely gone in, and it felt a little bad that it didn't. So, I feel like the penetration, if it was like 220 penetration, that probably would have gone in, and I feel like it probably should have gone in. So, in any case, the second round on that Bisante got into those, the destructible stuff, and I'm not entirely sure what just happened there, but I just somehow bounced around from the 274, and I realized after I shoot, I think maybe he blind fired, right? But I thought I was maybe spotted, and he just shot, which meant that I was getting outspotted by the 274, which feels bad, right? So that means this is not a good engagement. I don't want to be in this situation, so I'm trying to get out of this little cubby that I'm in, but I don't want to cross in the open and get tagged by those heavy tanks. So I'm going to go back before I continue, and I don't understand. I don't understand how that IS-22 knew that I was going to be there, unless I was still spotted and he's just a god. But he's trying to reverse side scrape off of against our enemies, and driving is hard. And so because of that, he's giving his full flat side to us. And I notice he's not leaving, so he is waiting to be unspotted. And I'm like, he's going to do it again. So here we go. We'll just wait, and I will say the reload allows us to get 2 rounds in. But then again, for those 2 rounds, we've only did about 400 damage. So it feels good to pew-pew, but the damage doesn't add up. Like, if I was in a Barask, and I could still take 2 shots, but it would be 800 rather than 400. So in my experience with this thing, it definitely makes you work for it. You definitely have to, like, I felt like I had to work at racking up damage in this thing, because it's not like a 750 alpha gun where you can shoot 3 times and you've done 2 times your hit points and damage or whatever. You really got to kind of be all over the place, and I think, like I said, good players are going to probably have a blast with this thing, because it can just burn things down. But I think that otherwise it asks a lot of you, and so if you're not, see that one there. I mean, it hit the hull technically, and not the inside drive wheel like I was aiming at, which accuracy. But at the same time, it didn't go in. Like, I sort of felt like that one should have gone in, but whatever. So I'm trying to do the same thing here, and trying to driving is the hardest part of this game, I've said. But I'm trying to not expose my side to that AMX. So I'm trying to take the wide line around, because their city is not looking great. And that 112, it looks like he's about to get pushed, and I'm deciding right now. I'm trying to get some overlapping lanes of fire here, and the Bisante runs away. So right now I'm seeing the 112 is isolated, and the 274 is running in on him, and also the defender is running in him. Right now I'm thinking this entire side of the map is gone. But then I was about to bail back to the C3 or the K1 area, and I noticed our AMX was pushing in, and so I was like, all right, this is what this tank is for. Right now, I actually picked the wrong target there. I probably should have shot the low health target, which is the 274, to take a gun out of the game. That was a bit of a mistake by me, but it doesn't much matter. So that was a 2v2, and now it's a 3v2. And so like because these guys are distracted with these other tanks, I'm able to use my DPM and my mobility, put myself in a position where I can turn that 2v2 into a 3v2, and my DPM to burn those guys down. And so that's what this tank really does well. It's almost like a Bat Chat, except like a 1357, except it never needs to reload. Maybe that's it. Yeah. So like, it's a force multiplier, and I was gonna tag that guy, but that's okay. He's gone now. And so now I see the AMX is facing off against the Leva, and the Leva has really bad DPM, and I have really good DPM. So I'm thinking this is a tank, you know, a situation I can probably come out okay in, especially because the AMX is also, you know, aware of the struggle, and so it's another 2v1. It was a 1v1. I flanked around. I turned it into a 2v1, and now I'm going to use my mobility, turn on a dime, and skedaddle out of there. So that's really like, if it was just me versus that Leva, I should not have taken the fight, and probably if I would have, it wouldn't have been very much fun. But because it was a 1v1 and I turned it into a 2v1, it turned out okay. And so that's the entire theme. Every time I've had success in this tank, it's because I had to use my brain and put myself in situations like that where I could, you know, I can't really carry the game myself, but I can help my teammates in such a way that the engagements that they're in turn into successes, right? You're like a force multiplier, right? I'm kind of like a Bat Chat, but worse in every way. So that's kind of the theme here. And I'm right now this Pantera is going to get shot, and so I was here to try to back him up. Shell velocity. I mean, that would have missed either way, but you could see that guy was dead while my shell was in the air. So the shell velocity definitely, you notice it. You know, trying to hit EBRs across the field, you will notice the fact that the shells take a second to get there. And now again, once you know, it's the same concept here. This AMX is in a 1v1, and I know this guy's going to die soon, so I track him so that I can get the tracking assistance damage. But that AMX was in a 1v1, and I turned it into a 2v1. So if you are the 1v1 in this thing, it's a real problem, right? Maybe in the late game. You can utilize the OK view range and the decent camo rating. Not really that good camo rating, but you can leverage those things along with the DPM to really strengthen. You know, you become kind of a problem, almost like a tank with a clip in the late game. But in the mid and early game, you really have a hard time. Like there are plenty of games that I've played where you kind of just had to sit and wait for an opportunity because you couldn't, you know, like El Haluf. It's like the entire map is won or lost in the brawl in the Northwest, and you can't really brawl in this thing. So there have been times where I just couldn't really do much. And now here we go. The HE does feel good. Hitting for 314. And I was about to do it again, you know, 4 seconds later. That can really turn the tides when it works. But anyways, we wrap up the game, and not a bad result. Alright, so at the end of the game we ended up with 2,981 damage, 1 kill, somehow 320 damage blocked, and about 1,000 assistance. Some of that was probably some of that was tracking, and some of that was probably spotting as well. So that got us the first class and I guess a Confederate badge, whatever. And you know, I guess that also ends up getting us 1,199 base XP, which is, you know, fine. That's fine. Like, but I definitely felt like we worked really hard for that. You know, 3,000 damage is a pretty good game, but man, I feel like I could have done the same thing but better in a lot of other tanks in this situation. So it's a very situational tank. And then at the end of the game here, yeah, the economy wise, ended up pulling away a profit of 79,000 credits. I will say that I was running food and I already had the food purchased, so that, you know, that's not in the consumables stuff. Like all my consumables were already purchased, so it would probably otherwise be higher if you were buying all the stuff from scratch. But anyways, yeah, 3,000 damage, and I didn't really shoot hardly any heat rounds, so that's, you know, 68,000 raw credits of profit. So there it is. Economy wise, it's okay. So that's the tank, and I'm kind of lukewarm on it. I think it can be fun, but it also can be very frustrating because of the limitations that it has. You know, the things about the tank the strengths, the opposite weaknesses of this. What am I trying to say here? The things that make the tank strong are hard to use in lots of games. Sometimes you'll be able to use them and it'll feel great, and you'll carry the game. It'll be awesome. But a lot of times you won't be able to leverage those strengths. You'll just end up trading with some IS for 390 and you hit him for 175, and it feels really bad. So I think the tank is okay, but I don't think it's. I think it's probably fairly well balanced, to be honest. So anyways, let me know what you guys think. If you liked, I guess, hit the like button, subscribe. I feel like a shill saying that, but thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Okay, bye.